Hi everyone, this is Sharon. Today I am doing a flip through of this winter themed journal that I just completed. I have it wrapped up with a piece of sari silk ribbon, and on the front I just added this little piece of jewelry as well. For the cover, I used this book I found in my local thrift store. In fact, I've got a couple of these. They're this really pretty charcoal gray, and there's just a little bit of sparkle to it. It reminds me of freshly fallen snow, so I really like using these for winter journals. The image on the front cover I used, it's from the Graphics Fairy, and I just love it. It's got just a very pale kind of bluish green color with some winter whites in there. And then on the spine, I did not like the way the book title went with the cover, so I just covered that with a vintage library catalog card. And I just thought that worked well with this. And it's a book called Parlor Games, so I thought that was appropriate for winter. On the inside, I've included a lot of very tranquil and serene winter pictures in kind of blues, silvery blues, greens. And because the front and back page have a lot going on, as well as the cover, for the inside covers, I wanted to use something maybe just a little bit more simple. And so I opted for these ledger images that are from the old design shop. So that's the one on the front. And this is the one I put on the back side. I just think they go well with the images that are there. So this first image is a winter scene, and I added a chiffon ruffle to the top and just a little bit of lace in there. I've included a few of these eco prints. I just love the colors in those, and I think they go well with this winter theme journal. I've also mixed in a lot of old book pages. Here on this one, I created a shallow pocket on the bottom, added some vintage fabric and some machine stitching on there. And then in that pocket, I created this card or tag and tucked it in. I have really been enjoying using, I've got a new French document kit in my Etsy shop, and I've used that quite a bit in here because some of the pages are this real palest of blues, and it just went really well with what I wanted to go with in this journal. Here I love the winter owls. I just did a little embellishing on the page. On this page, you got some script on there, and this is a page from a French embroidery magazine. And then I just clipped on there this little journaling card. I back this with some antique photo album paper. And then I've also got a vintage matte fragment that I attached. Here in the center of the signature, I created these, well, it's a tuck spot on the inside on both sides. And then in there, I've inserted this antique invoice from 1911. And then for the strings, I attached a couple of vintage stamps, one from France and one from the US. And then on this side, I have this image that I printed on tracing paper, and then I just attached that to a vintage piece. There's room to write on the back of that. And then this is what these embroidery pages look like. Sometimes I forget to show the pages when I'm flipping through. On this side of the page, I've clipped on this little item that I made. It's kind of a trifold. I call them document keepers, but I just included some sheets in here that can be used to write on the back side. And then did a little bit of stenciling on this sheet. And then at the top, I've added this little tab from Tracy Fox. And then to that tab, I've just added this little charm. And then on the back side of this whole thing is this beautiful winter scene. I just love this. I've embellished with some lace on some of these pages. And then in this pocket, I made this tag. This is an antique book page. I don't know if there's a year on it or not. I'm pretty sure it looks like 1892. Here's a wallpaper image, and then on there I've clipped this page from a magazine, and it's from December of 1942, and the magazine is called The Ideal Home and Gardening. You just see nice advertising on there. Here's another beautiful winter photo, and then I took some of this digital trim and faux button and then just kind of wrapped that around the page. And then on this side I've got a little belly band, and then in there I tucked this journaling card with these pretty winter birds. And this is an image, it's kind of like a line drawing of some furniture. Here I used a vintage envelope for the page, and on this side I did a little bit of stenciling with some stencil paste. And then on this page I used a vintage ledger sheet for the page and took this paper and created a pocket that wraps around both sides of the page. And then in there I made this card, the nice winter scene. And then on this side, I've got this journaling card, again with a pretty winter scene on it. And more of that French document from my kit. It's kit number 4 in case you're interested. I used a number of birds in here, winter scene birds. I think they just add a lot. In the center of this signature, I had a lot of fun with this. I created 2 side tucks, and I trimmed those up with some old fabric and some decorative stitching. And then in the center, I tucked this 4-piece panel. And what I did was take a winter scene, cut it in 4 pieces. I waxed the paper, and then I reattached them with some lace. So if you hold it up to the light, you can see through the lace, and it looks pretty cool. And it's just plain on the back. And then also in these pockets, I've got some very large journaling cards that I made. And then this is what the inside looks like. And here's the other one. It's lots of writing room in these sections on the backs and on the pages. Now this I had stretched across both pages, but what you could actually do is also fold it up and just tuck it in one of the pockets. Here's a beautiful scene of some, what are they? Not antelope. I don't know what they are. Reindeer? Maybe reindeer. On this side of the page, I've got this tag that I made with this lady in her winter clothes. And then on the back, I created a pocket, and in there I tucked this antique calling card. Here I created a pocket, and in there I've got some vintage items, an ID card for Leslie Wood, and this working card from 1920. The other side of that vintage envelope. And on this side, I don't know if you can see it or not, but I just did some very light tone-on-tone stenciling across the top and the bottom. It's just very subtle. On the top of this page, I took some sari silk and layered it up with velvet ribbon and a waxed seal. And here's another beautiful frosty winter scene. And on this side of the page, I love this line drawing of the swallows. And I just did a little bit of collaging there. And then I tucked in this vintage postcard. And this is from Germany. And then I made this journaling card using this old piece of fabric. And I left the hem on there because I just love it. There's this really tiny row of stitching, hand stitching all along there. And I just like the way that plays with the machine stitching that I did next to it. And then the back, I created this large pocket with some crinkly parchment paper. It reminds me of snow, but I left it plain and just left it as a place to write. And I tucked a antique book page in there. Here's a very old onion skin piece of paper from 1900. And I just folded that up to create a little pocket on this side of the page. And in there, I tucked this image that I printed on tracing paper. This is an old German book page. And I did some stenciling again up in the corner. And then on the center of the signature, I created these two, I don't know what you call them. They hang down and they cover the pockets and the items underneath. And I just added this tab made from some handmade paper that I embossed, and then put this little, I don't know what you call that, but on the bottom I hung these charms. That one and this one also has the same. So if we flip these up, got some pockets under here that I embellished, and then in there I've got two tags, the pretty birds on, and this one. Back up one page. In this pocket on this side, I've just put this vintage floral book page in there. And on this page, which is the other side of that swallow page, I did some collaging again and added this wool tab. And then I created this fun little booklet. I put the pages together with this kind of like the antique document binding method. Fussy cut this lady, this Italian lady from Roxy Creations, and then added her on here. And then lined this with some old book page. Added some straw paper in here and this antique ledger paper. And what I did on the inside was just kind of embellish it with a collage of fabrics and labels and things, kind of like a little sampler book. And I left some of these pages blank so the recipient of this journal can embellish those as she likes. And then on the back, this is actually a sampler piece. I believe this comes from Souvenir de la France. I'm almost positive. She has a lot of these types of things in her digital kits, and they're really fun to work with. And so over here, I just added my own little swatches of paper and fabric. Here on this side of the page, I created this top tuck using a library catalog card. I embossed it and then just inked it up a little bit to create some dimension on there. And then in that pocket, I've got some vintage items, a receipt, and this antique postcard that is in French, and then a French book page. I just added a little tie at the bottom of that library card. Oh, I should show you the page underneath. It's this really pretty winter scene. Here I created a side tuck with this image of this lady in winter. And then in there I tucked kind of like a floating pocket that loads from the bottom. On the back side, I left plain for some writing room, and then in there, I've got this tag And then the page is this embroidery pattern in the back. Here on this page, I just love this image of the sheep in winter. And on the top, I added this beautiful piece of cross stitch that I've had for quite some time, but it's just got the perfect colors in it, a real pale silvery blue, and I just think it's really pretty and looks nice on the top of that page. This is an old, quite old French book page, and I created 2 pockets on the inside, and in there I tucked, well, first of all, I did my own little stitching on these, a couple little French knots on each side. And then in the pockets, I've got this really pretty winter image, and I just added a little bit of lace on the bottom to trim it up. And I did some stenciling with ink on the back, and could use that for writing as well. And then I've got this tag on this side. I kind of tied up the ribbon on the top to make it look more like a scarf than a bow. And then this is the back side. Here I added just a piece of fabric again with some decorative stitching. I just like the way that goes with this fabric that looks like it belongs in winter. Here again, I've got another side tuck with this lady in her winter clothing. And in that pocket, I put this very old antique French document. Old as in mid-1700s. It's one of those where you kind of bite your lip when you put it in here. I've been hanging on to it for a little bit, but I know I can't keep it forever. I wasn't meant to have it forever, so sometimes you just have to let them go, and this is the one for that. I think it looks better in here than in my folder anyway. Here on this page, I've got this pretty lacy pattern on there, and then I made this another floating pocket, and it's made from embossed cardstock that I just kind of highlighted the high areas with some ink, and then I wrapped that with this doily image, so it does create a pocket on both sides. And then in this front pocket, I tucked this antique French letter from 1813. It's a very old one, and I'm just going to leave that all tucked in there. The recipient can explore that. Here's another beautiful winter scene. I love this one, very serene, peaceful. And I just added this blue velvet ruffle on the top. And then on this page, I've got a little pocket on the bottom. I just added some fabrics and trims on the page. And then I've got this little booklet in here of some offcuts, room for writing in there. In this pocket, I've just got this label that I printed on vellum, and I stapled that to vintage book page. And this is a page from a book on the English Lake District, but I liked it because it said winter sports on the back, so I thought that was appropriate. On this page, I made this corner tuck from this embossed frame. I just kind of embellished that a little bit, and in there I tucked this card. I love this picture of this lady in her snowshoes. Then I added some writing room on the back, and then another antique book page. Here I created a page with this ledger sheet from 1906. And in the center, I've got just some beads hanging from the strings. And then in these little pockets, I made these pockets from some of that old antique photo album paper. And on this side, I've got a vintage photo, and I just added a little bit of stenciling paste to the top. And I just love embellishing photos like that. Just add a little bit to it. And then I've got this little card on this side. And then in this pocket on this side, I've got 2 more original photos and just embellish those a little bit. Again, added some lace to this page. This page, I love this wallpaper image. The colors are really pretty. And then I just embellished that with this punched piece of paper on there. And then I added this vintage envelope from 1953. It is in French, and the original letter, I think it's a 3-page letter, is in the inside. And then I just also clipped on this little hydrangea from my flower garden. I like to think about flowers in the midst of winter, kind of planning out spring and thinking about the pretty flowers. And then on this side, I've got just a piece of old ledger paper that's blank and can be used for writing. And then on this page, I've got the top embellished with a piece of wool. Again, a little piece of cotton that's been stitched. And then this really pretty piece of linen. It's very light and thin. And it's got some nice cut work around the outside. And I just use that as a fabric flip. And there's this eco dye page underneath. And then this winter scene to cap off the journal. So I hope you enjoyed that flip through today. I look forward to seeing you next time. Bye-bye.